r/Antiwork is the fastest growing community group on Reddit. So, are we all turning into a bunch of lazy bums like some people tend to think? Or is this reflective of a much larger movement calling for a much needed redefinition of how we value work? First off, my name is James Lee. Welcome to my channel 5149, where I talk business, politics, and society. And today we are going to talk about r/Antiwork. What is it? Who are these people? What does this community, or maybe you can even say movement, represent? And how could the future of work differ from what we today know as work? So the subreddit r/Antiwork is a group home to 800,000 plus and growing idlers, as they call themselves, who want to end work, are curious about ending work, want to get the most out of a work-free life, want more information on anti-work ideas, and want personal help with their own job/work-related struggles. So based on that, I think anti-work could mean something a little bit different to everybody in the community. Some just want to vent their frustrations with how they're treated at work. Examples like being told they're essential workers during the pandemic, but treated as if they're dispensable, or being forced to work long hours for low wages and little acknowledgement. Scrolling through the forum, you can also find some pretty poignant observations through tweets and memes. Really makes no sense how taking pictures of yourself without clothes on is, quote, selling your body, but destroying your back permanently at a warehouse in service of investors and shareholders while you get paid minimum wage isn't. Facts. It's also a really good source of calling out the viciousness of capital and the lengths they will go to break labor. This one's pretty startling. John Deere is going to shut off striking employees' health insurance on October 27th to try to break the strike. This is why we need #Medicare for all. And mind you, this is coming from a company whose CEO's pay jumped 160% in 2020 to $16 million, and the company is projecting a record $5.7 billion in profit this year, more than double 2020 and 75% higher than 2019. And in return, John Deere is offering their workers a starting wage of just $20.10 an hour, rising to just $21.12 after 5 years. And also, really quickly, just to give a little bit more context, because I think it's worth highlighting how John Deere has spent the bulk of its profits since the last contract with the AUW was signed in 2015. From fiscal year 2016 through the first 9 months of fiscal year 2021, John Deere earned more than $16 billion in profits. The company spent roughly $5 billion on dividends and $4.95 billion on share repurchases. Nearly $10 billion in total was given to shareholders during the 6 years of the previous contract. What does this mean for the workers at John Deere? With the money that John Deere gave to shareholders, it could have paid each of its 69,600 worldwide employees an additional $142,000 over the past 6 years. So it is pretty clear what the philosophy here is, which is, it's not that we can't pay you, it's that we really don't want to. We don't feel like it. I also saw this comment from someone: slavery was never abolished. They figured that renting by the hour was cheaper. More facts. So it's no surprise that a common unifying theme tying the anti-work community together is a desire to redefine or reimagine society, specifically what it means to work in this society. I think this passage from the community's FAQ explains it quite well. For our purposes, work is probably best understood as an economic social relationship based upon compulsion. It is the alienation of an individual's time, activities, and forces from her/himself. The institutions of property and commodity exchange place a price tag upon survival. The power of the masses is turned back against them by privileged classes. Wage workers are completely dependent on selling the content of their lives to those in control of production in order to gain access to the necessities of life: money for food, shelter, clothing, etc. Its similarities to chattel slavery has led many to term wage work as wage slavery, with voluntary employment being simply a false choice between one exploiter or another. Right, so I think in our society, work and the value of work is inextricably tied to some kind of financial or monetary equivalency. And because we typically measure work by how much money you make, instead of maybe other metrics like time, effort, or societal value, you start to create a society where money is now used as a justification or a tool for the wealthy and the privileged to control and exploit the masses. Like, for example, not only do you need the money to survive, your worth is somehow also tied to how much money you make. So, if you make a lot of it, it must mean that you're doing good work. And if you're not making a lot of money, it also must mean that you're not doing good work and therefore deserve to be wherever you are in life. We of course know this not to be true, as some of the most important jobs in society, the ones that bring the most value to society, I would argue, such as educating our children, get paid very little. So what's the other option? How do we think about this in a different way? The alternative to work is its abolition. The alternative to capitalist exploitation is an end to currently existing enforced property norms. The alternative to the status quo is us abandoning ship for a more joyful and just society, one that doesn't destroy the planet. This idea of abandoning ship, once again, I think it could mean something different to everyone. I don't really spend a lot of time talking about myself on this channel, but the videos I produce on this channel, I spend a lot of time doing the research, recording it, editing it, and I'm definitely not making any money from them. So to many, it is not work. But I would venture to say that I am providing some kind of value to society, and arguably more so than compared with my, quote, real job. And I love doing them. But I'm constantly grappling with how to balance the stuff that I'm passionate about with the work that the market, quote, values. How do I create a path that allows me, at least in the meantime, to do both, but in a sustainable and healthy way? Because sure, I can work 80 hours a week and do both, but I don't know if I can sustain that forever. And that's something I'm still trying to figure out. So we all kind of have our own way of interpreting anti-work and how it applies to our own life. Some people are choosing to quit. We've all read or at least heard of the Great Resignation. Something wild that I came across recently was that in a survey of 1,200 tech and IT workers in the US, nearly 3/4, 72%, said they intended to quit within the next year. Others are choosing to fight for better working conditions. In America, we're seeing a kind of labor revolution we haven't seen in decades. In March, 800 nurses at St. Vincent Hospital in Massachusetts went on strike. In April, 1,100 coal miners in Alabama went on strike. Both of those groups are still on strike. In July, Frito-Lay factory workers went on strike. They were followed in August by their union siblings at Nabisco factories, and this month by those who work at Kellogg's factories. Last week, 10,000 John Deere workers went out on strike, and 60,000 film and television workers in the union IATSE went to the very precipice of the most massive strike of all. Interspersed in these have been hundreds of other strikes or near strikes from healthcare workers, factory workers, university workers, and more. So my takeaway, and what I definitively know, is that our current definition of work is outdated, right? The 40-hour work week was defined almost a century ago by the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. And we know for a fact that we've gotten so much more efficient since then with new technologies and production capabilities and such. Our goal for the economy shouldn't just be to produce more and more stuff and generate more and more money until, we've sucked every possible nutrient and resource out of this earth. I think that's one of the fundamental problems with capitalism. You can't have an economy based on infinite growth in a planet with finite resources. There's really only one way that can end. But maybe that is the one silver lining coming out of this pandemic, is that I think people are much more aware of what we're doing to our planet, perhaps more keen to challenge the conventional notions around work and around our economy, and maybe in a more tangible, practical, and immediate sense, more willing to challenge the imbalance of power between capital and labor, which hopefully can help redefine the future of work, but maybe also prolong the life of our planet. That is my take on anti-work. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me, what do you think? What does work mean to you, or what does anti-work mean to you? I truly do appreciate everyone's comments and feedback and the dialogue we get to share on this community. If you want to support what I do here, please click on that like button, share this video, consider subscribing and clicking on that notification bell icon so I can keep making more videos. As always, thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you next week.